Alright, if you want to get into the actual video, skip to this part right here. Alright, so full transparency viewers, this was an emergency compilation video that I just had to make. At the time of recording this intro, I'm leaving to attend my grandfather's funeral. When this video comes out, I will already be back and I will be working again, but I needed a quick and easy video so I could focus on the important preparations. These two videos are some of my absolute favorites, and I really love just how they highlight how strong free characters can be and how meta-altering some of them truly are. I really hope you guys enjoy these, and normal content will be back by the next upload. Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today we're going to be looking at some of the early Star Rail tier lists and comparing it to what's going on nowadays. Alright, so we got our original pre-twin tier list here. Right at the top, we see Bronya and Zila, of course, two absolute powerhouses during the early meta. In the sustain category, we have Bailu and Gepard being the best of their field early on. Just below all these characters, we can also see Clara, Yanqing, and Welt in the second highest tier. Man, things were, really different back then. Let's go take a look at the modern day tier list now to compare some of the top characters. If these were the best characters back then, I'm sure today's tier list will have a bunch of special pass only characters, no 4 stars, and absolutely no common units like March or the Trailblazer. Free characters are dominating Star Rail. Let's talk about it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Over 80% of my audience isn't, and it really does help out a lot. Alright, back to the video. Alright, so because somebody is going to bring it up or just straight up won't know, let's talk about Dr. Ratio real quick. New players are looking at this saying, what do you mean Ratio is free? Dr. Ratio was free for a few months after Star Rail won Best Mobile Game of the Year at the Game Awards. While the offer is no longer available, a good deal of players have Ratio for absolute free with no effort on their end. If you don't have him, yeah, that's unfortunate, and I would recommend getting him when his banner comes around again. You know, fun character, he's recently gotten a lot of support and so is the follow-up meta as a whole, so far from a bad choice. He's a very good unit, as we'll talk about soon, and works well with a lot of different characters. With that said, I will still be referring to him as a free character since he was in fact free for a long time. Just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. Now obviously, to say these units are dominating the game is a bit of an oversell, but it's insane at all to say that these 3 characters are in the top half of the tier list. Which, considering there are about 60 different characters in this game, is incredible. Free characters being this good is something I personally haven't seen or heard about before. I am still a newer gacha game player to be fair, but the point stands at least from my experience. So what makes these characters so good? Why do we consistently see Ratio and Harmony MC being on such good teams that can clear hard content? How is Hunt March running with elite follow-up teams, being a reliable replacement for people who don't have the premier 5-star option for follow-up teams, Topaz? Well, to answer these questions, we're going to take a closer look at these characters and how good they actually are. If you already have these characters, what's the point in leaving them in there to rot, right? These free characters are amazing for any player, and hopefully, this video will get some of you at home to try them out yourself. With our preamble out of the way, let's talk about the first 5-star of the group, Dr. Ratio. Ratio is an imaginary hunt unit released in version 1.5. His gameplay style is very unique compared to the other premier follow-up DPS, Fei Xiao. His skill only does 150% of his attack, whereas his follow-up attack does 270% at E0. Fei Xiao, on the other hand, has a much stronger skill at 200% and a weaker follow-up attack at 110%. Fei Xiao does get a buff on top of this, which is why her damage still ultimately equals out, but still. Ratio is far more reliant on his follow-up attacks to do consistent damage. His follow-up attacks don't trigger in a traditional way, however. His follow-up is linked to debuffing the enemy to go off. Allow me to explain. When using Dr. Ratio, using his skill on an enemy has a 40% chance to trigger his follow-up. That sucks. However, for every debuff an enemy has, that chance goes up by 20%. So, if an enemy has been debuffed 3 times, there is a 100% chance that Ratio will trigger his devastating follow-up. This style means that his teammates, while similar to Fei Xiao, are there for a wildly different reason. Ratio needs debuffs to be effective, whereas Fei Xiao needs specifically follow-up attacks to be effective. This isn't where Ratio's debuff mania ends, however. Ratio has a major trace that contributes to this playstyle even more. His major trace, called Summation, offers crit rate and crit damage for every debuff an enemy has when using his skill. It can stack up to 6 times, which would result in an additional crit rate of 15% and additional crit damage of 30%. These numbers ultimately mean a lot in game, considering this could easily get you the crit rate needed to hit 100%, allowing for a player to get even more crit damage or more attack. He also has another major trace called Deduction, offering 10% more attack for every debuff an enemy has once they're past 3 debuffs. This caps at an additional 50% attack. Yeah, this man is a mad doctor at this point. He just wants to see his enemies suffering. Imagine you've already got a cold, and then Ratio hits you with a broken leg, asthma, and an ADHD diagnosis on top of it. This man is a monster. With Ratio's playstyle now a bit more fleshed out, we can talk about his optimal teams, which is why I like him so much as a free unit. You may be saying, but wait, you just said he needs specifically debuffs to work well, and a lot of them, right? That should be a limiting factor. Well, you're absolutely right about that. Requiring debuffs does limit his potential partners quite a bit. But would you like to hear the list of characters he can still work with well enough to clear endgame content that I have seen multiple times? Ahem. We have Hunt March, Topaz, Pela, Silverwolf, Sparkle, Jiaoqiu, Moz, Gallagher, Fushuan, Aventurine, Ron Mei, Tingyun, and Robin. And keep in mind, these are just the conventional options. Bronya and Asta are sitting in the corner too to see if they're needed for hyperspeed. You'll notice when looking at this list, there are 5 different 4-star options, all of which being the most recommended to get 4 stars in the game. He is also compatible with multiple 5-star characters, and basically every top Harmony character because of how universally good they are. Now, while I wouldn't recommend just randomly picking from this list to make your team, doing research and seeing what characters have more debuffs and what characters have less means you can kinda drag and drop characters in for what you most need. By having a built Aventurine and Moz, you can fill your last slot with anyone you want. Or, if you like the crit damage and speed that March will give, you might need a little extra to hit your max amount of debuffs. Still, with this many options, it's hard to go wrong. The hardest part about assembling a Ratio team is building him, and I stand pretty firmly on that. Everything else, you can make it work if you try hard enough. With my Dr. Ratio propaganda out of the way now, we can now talk about my favorite of the 3 units today, Hunt March. I know this information may be shocking to some of you, but yes, March 7th the Hunt is in fact a 4-star imaginary Hunt unit. March is definitely a bit different compared to the average Hunt unit, however. The dev team saw that March wasn't getting used much anymore, and they made her ridiculous. Let's start off with what I think is March's most interesting ability, her skill. March's skill is called Master It's Tea Time, where she pulls a whole boba tea out of the ether and gives it to a character of your choosing. This tea will do 2 things. First off, it will increase the speed of March's chosen master by 10% outright. That's already extremely good, but the other effect is what makes March so interesting to me. Based on the path of your chosen master, March will gain a specific effect on her attacks going forward. If your Shifu is Erudition, Destruction, or Hunt, March's basic attacks will deal additional damage equal to 20% of March's attack. If your Shifu is any of the other paths, however, your attacks will instead have their toughness reduction increased by 100%. This skill alone gives March a unique position in the game. Not only is she an amazing Hunt character suited for follow-up teams like with Fei Xiao and Ratio, but March is capable of slotting in perfectly into super break-oriented teams as well. While not the best for traditional break teams, having her work alongside Harmony Trailblazer and your primary break unit can genuinely only go well for you in most cases. Hell, I've even seen people only run her with Harmony Trailblazer and keep the rest of the break team the same with Ron Mei and Gallagher Ling Sha. This skill opens up a world of creativity for March, allowing her to be used in almost every scenario under the sun and still be a benefit to the team. That's not all she has though, and man, that's not even her bread and butter ability. March's gameplay revolves around working with her Shifu to generate damage so that she can gain charges. For every attack Shifu puts out, March will gain a charge. When she has 7 charges, she will unleash an enhanced basic attack with her getting an action advance when reaching that max charge. This attack is absolutely devastating, hitting at minimum 3 times, and if done after an ultimate, a minimum of 5 times. Each slash does 80% of March's attack, ultimately meaning you will at minimum do 240% of March's attack. That's the same amount as her ultimate, for crying out loud. And yet, that's still not where it ends. March is one of the only cases where every Eidolon she has can be gotten for free by doing in-game events. These events are permanent, so any player who wants an E6 March can have her. Now, let's go over these Eidolons since every player using her should have them, and they are what make March so incredible. Starting with E1, March when using her skill will also gain a 10% speed increase. That is incredible, and means if you can build enough speed on her, you can opt to gain even more attack instead by using attack boots. E2 March will unlock a follow-up attack that triggers when her Shifu attacks, dealing 60% of March's attack as damage and getting March a charge in the process. That is incredible for obvious reasons. This Eidolon now turns March from a basic attack demon that thrives with follow-up characters into a follow-up character herself. Her E3 and E5 are both Trace's level ups, so those are normal. Her E4, on the other hand, regenerates 5 energy at the start of every one of her turns. Reminder, she gets even more broken if you ult before an enhanced basic attack. This fast-tracking her energy gain is incredible, and basically means she can get an ult around every 3 turns or so when factoring in her enhanced basic and follow-ups giving energy too. And lastly, E6. Far from complicated, this will increase the crit damage of March's next enhanced basic attack after using her ultimate by 50%. Oh, and did I mention that March has a major trace where, after using her enhanced basic, her Shifu gets an additional 60% crit damage for 2 turns? This character is free! That's fucked up. March is easily one of the most plug-and-play units in the entire game right now, working with any Super Break team and any of Yunli, Topaz, Clara, Ratio, or Fei Xiao as your primary attacker. I personally love March a lot, and while I know a lot of people use this form now, I still can't recommend it enough. You get all of this for free, and I can personally attest to how good March has been, with her being on one of my first teams to ever actually clear MOC 12. Please, please, please invest in March, you will not regret it. Finally, we get to Mr. Broken Mechanic himself, Harmony Trailblazer. This one is gonna be a doozy. So, Harmony Trailblazer is the most recent form of the Trailblazer as of version 2.6, which is when I'm writing this. And boy oh boy is he interesting. Yes, I will be referring to the Trailblazer as he for this video since that's the form I use. I don't care about his skill, I don't care about his basic attack, the biggest part of Harmony MC is that ultimate. The ultimate all-out Footlight Parade does 2 things. 1, it'll increase all allies' break effect by 30%. 2, every time a character with their weakness broken is attacked, this attack will be turned into an instance of Super Break. I'm not going to go into the exact calculations of Super Break, but I will put them on screen for those interested. All you need to know is, it's going to do a lot of damage if you have a lot of break effect. This ultimate lasts for 3 turns, and is one of the most powerful ults in the game. This ultimate has essentially created a new team all by itself because of how devastating the damage of Super Break really is. Wouldn't you know it, right around when this character came out, Firefly was right there with him to form the most prominent team comp in Star Rail currently. It doesn't just stop with Firefly though. You want to run Super Break Himiko? Go ahead. Want to make your boot hill even better? Have a blast. You want an excuse to use your old Zhuyi or Sushong? Knock yourself out. You want to use that other completely free character alongside this completely free character to beat hard content? Go right ahead. Break teams already existed without Harmony Trailblazer, but his existence makes them so good it's hard to say anything negative about the character. Break support was at an all-time high as well, which continued to validate the strength and usefulness of this free form. And it only gets better from here. The major traces are of course helpful, with one increasing super break damage even more the less enemies there are on the field. Pretty good, and the other traces are helpful as well. The Eidolons follow this pattern perfectly, with E4 Trailblazer increasing the break effect of his teammates by 15% of his break effect. Keep in mind, this is on top of increasing it by 30 with his ult. This can also stack with his overworld technique, which gives a 30% break effect boost when entering battle. Assuming you're like me and have your Trailblazer at least 200% break effect, this means you would get, at minimum, an additional 90% break effect on your other 3 characters. Just by having him exist in your general area. He's incredible. And my lord, I can only say it so much, but this man serves like no other. God damn! As you can see, these 3 characters are absolutely incredible. All of them bring a unique playstyle to the table that allows for a great deal of creativity while still being hyper effective at every level of content. Ratio, Topaz, Robin, and Aventurine have been clearing MOC for ages. Super Break Firefly is still the top performing team in Star Rail at this moment. March constantly makes appearances on top 10 teams alongside numerous different partners. Many players have access to these characters, and in the case of March and the Trailblazer, all of their Eidolons as well, which can supercharge them into something even greater. I wasn't kidding at the start. These free units really are dominating Star Rail, and it is absolutely beautiful to see. So quick last minute note, this video was done entirely before update 2.7 or any more news about it dropped. We are now getting another new form of the Trailblazer, this time being one of the first Remembrance characters in the game. That will probably be amazing, and alongside that, we get yet another free character in the form of picking a free standard banner 5-star. I'm not going to extend this video too long, but as a quick guide for anyone who may need it, if you already have Firefly, you can get Himiko to run with her and Harmony Trailblazer to create a devastating Super Break duo. None of the characters here are super great for ratio unless you want to get real creative with the Welt Sustain route. This is a real option that works for many people, and since Welt provides debuffs and has increased damage when enemies are debuffed, solid choice overall for him. Lastly, March is rarely the front man of your team, so I would worry more about who you're running with her, but remember that Bronya is always a good choice from the selector. Clara is also a good choice if you want to make use of another unit you get by just playing the game, Lynx. Keep these in mind when making your choice, and enjoy even more free goodness coming from Star Rail. Alright, outro time for real now. Alright, well, thank you all very much for watching. Don't really have much to say about this one, this is just a fun idea I had a few days ago, so I wanted to try and work on it. And I really have been enjoying these few characters. Like, I don't actively use Ratio a lot, but a lot of my friends like him. I still see people use Ratio a lot and want Ratio. And even then, I've used him in Divergent Universe a few times, and he is actually really fun. My 2 personal favorites are, in fact, the Trailblazer and March, and I use both of them a lot. But still, if you guys have time to invest in any of these characters, or you just want to invest and make some new fun teams, I really cannot recommend it enough. They are really fun characters. You have them, you might as well use them. That's all I'm going to say today, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you for the next video. Bye-bye. Tell me, viewer, what are the guarantees in life? Some may say taxes. Some, they may say death. But allow me to tell you the true guarantees in life. Yukong Uriart, Kekvin getting called bad, and Honkai Star Rail giving incredible damage dealers for absolutely free. Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and a long time ago I made a video called Free Characters Are Dominating Star Rail. In that video, I talked about HMC, March 7th Hunt, and Dr. Ratio. These were all incredibly powerful characters at the time, and they had been helping players everywhere beat the hardest content in the game. Well, fast forward to today, and somehow we've been blessed with another incredible set of characters. During version 3.x, players have received Remembrance MC, Archer, and Dan Heng PT for absolutely free. Let's go look at the tier list real quick to see how those characters are stacking up now. Yep, free characters are still dominating Star Rail. Let's talk about it. So hey, make sure to join the Discord and subscribe. Come on now, Darren. I know where you live. One quick note, at the time of this video's release, Archer is no longer free to all players, unfortunately. His free period ended in version 3.6. Dan Heng PT will have a similar story, with his free period ending in version 4.0. This is admittedly a big problem I have with how HSR does free characters, since they can still be extremely helpful to new players. I see little harm in characters staying free since they will get outdated if a new player starts in like 4.2 or something. Dan Heng especially is an unfortunate case since his development into Dan Heng PT is genuinely incredible and very much a key aspect of his personal story. My personal gripes aside, these characters were free or are currently free, so I will still be talking about them today for the countless players who do have them sitting on their accounts. I think I've said this line before, but let's start off with talking about the free 5-star Hunt unit. Archer is a Quantum Hunt 5-star released in version 3.4. He was one of the more unique cases of a free character, which is why I wanted to start with him. At the time of release, you could actually get his light cone alongside him. There was a promotion where players got a free Archer cone by spending 200 pulls during version 3.4. This is definitely a lot of pulls, so it was met with some backlash, but I personally thought it was pretty cool. This allowed players to pull for whoever they wanted, and as long as they had saved or could muster up the pulls, they got a complete character of Archer and his light cone, alongside the numerous other amazing characters available on that banner. You could also just pull for the light cone if you wanted, and still get it by winning your 75-25. Overall, it was a neat experience, and something that I really wish happened for DHPT. With Archer's arrival out of the way, let's actually talk about his unique style and build. Archer is a character unlike any other in Star Rail, and you'll feel it almost immediately. This is because you'll see your skill points are at 7 instead of 5 for some reason. Just like Sparkle, Archer is capable of increasing the skill point cap by 2. These are the only 2 characters in HSR capable of this, and when playing Archer, you'll understand very quickly why he needs these extra skill points. That brings us to his actual moveset, which isn't too hard to follow for most of his abilities. His basic attack is as the name implies, basic. A simple attack that does 100% of his base attack to a single enemy. His ultimate is the first place where things get interesting. Costing a massive 220 energy, Archer will do 1000% of his attack to a single enemy upon using his ultimate. Using it will also grant him 2 charges. What are charges, you might ask? They're follow-up attacks. He is also capable of follow-up attacks. What happened to this being a whole niche? Every time an ally attacks, Archer will use 1 point of charge to unleash his follow-up attack. Besides doing decent damage, every charge used will regenerate 1 skill point for the team. With Archer gaining 2 charges every single ult, that's 2 skill points back for having another ally attack. Based on what we've seen so far, Archer is clearly very SP minded. So how about instead of just telling you what his skill does, I show you. Archer's skill is called Kalidbog Fake Spiral Sword. Upon using this skill, Archer will enter the circuit connection state. Upon firing the first shot that does 360% of his attack, by the way, Archer can choose to fire another skill, up to 5 times. The skill damage can also increase by 100%, stacking up to 2 times. Yeah! I don't think I need to particularly explain how 360% 5 times in a row is good. Archer is a burst character who does extreme amounts of damage in one go, even being able to dispose of elite enemies in one use of his skill. This is without factoring in his major trace, Guardian. When allies gain a skill point, if there are 4 skill points or more, Archer will gain 120% crit damage for 1 turn. Considering his turn doesn't end while using skill, and he runs best with characters who shred defense or increase crit damage and damage percent, the math on his damage is just not worth doing, if we're being honest. Just assume it's a lot. Like, a lot. You get all of this for free as well. That is a very, very good deal, with one condition. Archer is a character who is substantially weaker without either his E1 or his best in-slot character, Sparkle. Sparkle is a match made in heaven for Archer, giving him everything he wants, no questions asked. Without her, most players will suffer a great deal. It gets to the point the character is almost not worth using anymore, the same way Ratio was very hard to play without Topaz for a very long time. With that in mind, Archer is still an incredibly powerful character who can synergize well with many supports in Quantum specifically, and just with many supports overall. Definitely a great free character that players still love getting to use today. Especially the Sparkle mains, because dear lord, they did not have anything else to work with beforehand. The next character I want to talk about is gonna be Dan Heng. Dan Heng Permancer Terra is a physical preservation 5-star, released in version 3.6. His free period is still currently ongoing, and if you're watching this video and are debating on starting HSR, you should just to have the chance to get him. He is that good of a character, in my opinion. To dive into why he's so good, we have to first explain his moveset. The big hitter here is his skill, Terra Omnibus. This applies shields to all party members, which is good, but the real interest is from its second effect. Using skill or technique before entering battle will designate one ally as the bond mate, summoning Soul Dragon for them. Soul Dragon will consistently provide more shields for allies and will actually increase the attack of the character designated as bond mate. It is also capable of providing follow-up attacks when enhanced through Dan Heng's ultimate. The basis of this kit is very simple, but incredibly effective. Soul Dragon will constantly advance itself if you run a faster DPS character, meaning even more reliable shielding for your party members. The damage from the follow-up attack is pretty stellar as well, depending on the bond mate, but for the most part, it's always somewhat reliable damage. On top of amazing sustain and solid damage and support capabilities, DHPT's excellence extends a bit further with one specific combo. While Archer's combo does annoy me a little bit because Sparkle is definitely a more niche character, DHPT combos perfectly with one of the strongest supports in the game, Sunday. Let me explain. Sunday action advances both characters and their summons. He always increases the damage of his target, but if they have a summon, that number goes from 30% to a whopping 80% damage increase. Soul Dragon is classified as a summon, and it doesn't count as Dan Heng's summon, it's actually linked to the bond mate specifically. Put 2 and 2 together, any character with Soul Dragon now gets an additional 50% damage increase from Sunday. Soul Dragon will also move consistently with your DPS, which means you won't have to worry about not knowing if it'll activate shields again in a reasonable amount of time. While this combo doesn't benefit every character, it benefits enough to be worthy of mention in my opinion. It especially deserves that mention when you consider many characters who like using Sunday can also make use of DHPT perfectly fine. This is easily one of the most unique things to exist in Star Rail, and should be abused as often as possible if you can. It makes certain characters way more fun, and really, who doesn't love a giant dragon getting to fly around the battlefield? Pretty sure those people in Game of Thrones didn't, but oh well. The last character of the day is none other than the only permanently free character, and probably the best one currently, Remembrance MC. And let me just say, I am genuinely shocked at how incredible this character is. This is a totally free character that you get by just playing the story, and they are easily one of the best supports in the game. Not just for a free character, but overall. That is genuinely unbelievable. Going from HMC as a fun and extremely helpful character into a more generalized support with an incredibly powerful signature mechanic is awesome for anyone playing this game. Getting such a powerful support who works with everything besides maybe break? I don't know how we could ask for more. I will ask for more, but it'll be hard. Alright, enough yapping. Let's finally talk about the dynamic duo of Mem and the Trailblazer. RMC is an Ice Remembrance character released in version 3.0. As far as I know, you're actually capable of acquiring this form even earlier now. You'll just be missing out on Eidolons for them. This is a little unfortunate as the Eidolons can be quite helpful, the early ones specifically, but RMC is still perfectly fine without them, don't you worry. Getting into what RMC actually does, your main focus is not on anything the Trailblazer does, but rather what Mem does. When using skill to summon Mem gains charge. No, not Archer charge, although I would love to see what Mem could do with the bow and arrow. Mem's charge is a bar that goes up to 100%. When this bar reaches 100%, Mem will fully action advance a teammate and grant them true damage. True damage is not quite the easiest thing in the world to explain, so on screen now, I'm going to flash the formula so viewers can pause and read at their own discretion. The one thing you need to know is that this damage type is incredibly strong overall. True damage lasts for about 3 turns, which for some characters means you can actually build up another advance in the time it takes for your DPS to attack that many times. That consistent massive damage buff can really elevate a character's performance, and is highly recommended even over some other signature supports. The rest of the kit is all dedicated to building charge however possible. RMC skill grants charge. Mem's Memo Sprite attack grants charge. RMC's ultimate, it grants 40 charge. This could also do a bit of damage with E6, granting a 100% crit rate when using this ultimate. Oh, also, one more thing, allies actually give Mem charge too. Shocking, right? When allies in total regenerate 10 energy, Mem gains 1% charge. This is a big part of why I like RMC so much. The flexibility, but similarly, the creativity you can work with. RMC has a mechanic hidden in Eidolons. That allows characters who don't generate energy to get a huge benefit from these buffs. At E4, characters with 0 energy grant 3% charge when using abilities. They also get a 6% bonus to their true damage multiplier when receiving Mem support. An incredible quality of life choice by the HSR devs that I kinda wish was universally applicable to all supports. Sunday just granting like Fei Xiao a massive damage boost instead of energy would be, yeah, it'd be nice. Anyway, back to RMC. I like the creativity and potential RMC has as a free character. They work with many teams, and you can often morph how they play to your team depending on the supports available. With how the energy from allies feature works, pairing RMC with characters who regenerate energy often is an amazing synergy that can unlock even more opportunities to use Mem's advance. One premier example of this would be Evernight and Tribby on the same team. With their signature cones, they regenerate a very high amount of energy per action. This can be great for RMC, since in a team like this, RMC can also spam skill to gain even more charge from Mem. Combinations like this are what I love, and for a free character to have such interesting synergies with multiple characters, it really explains why they top most tier lists as one of the best supports in Star Rail. With all 3 characters talked about, I want to take this final section to talk about the best teams and possibilities for these free characters. I'm sure many players watching this are experienced or have some sort of idea what works, but still. More game knowledge is never a bad thing, and understanding why things work so well is a positive all its own. With that said, let's start with Archer. Archer, like I mentioned earlier, is very much at his best with Sparkle. You should be aiming to have them together no matter what. After that, your game plan can vary enemy by enemy. If an enemy isn't quantum weak, Silverwolf is highly recommended, as a powerful option that will also allow Archer to break consistently. If an enemy is already quantum weak, Tribby and Cypher are incredible options that will do a lot to benefit the damage that Archer outputs. Funnily enough, another great teammate for Archer is actually RMC. The way this works is you have RMC advance Archer before Sparkle. That way when Sparkle advances him, the buffs will stack to do even higher damage. Just another benefit of RMC, I suppose. Having that true damage buff last for 3 whole turns allows him to synergize well with other action advancers. As a sustain for Archer, any SP positive sustain is ideal. Characters like Aventurine, Gallagher, and Donhung PT are incredible choices. Archer does actually have a fair bit of flexibility. Sparkle is just very important if you want this formula to actually succeed. DHPT and RMC aren't DPS characters, so their flexibility is quite a bit higher since they are the ones being plugged into a team rather than having it built around them. Starting with DHPT, the focus of this section is what characters benefit the most from his unique moveset. First and foremost on the list is Finon. This gives him a sustain who can actively make him stronger, select him to give him core flame stacks, and Finon usually has so much attack that Soul Dragon will end up contributing decent damage in a fight as well. Other characters who benefit a lot from Soul Dragon are usually fast-acting characters like Kafka on DOT. Since Kafka moves so much, Soul Dragon moves constantly. This results in DHPT only having to basic attack, granting the DOT girlies the skill points they desperately need. The last thing to note about DHPT is his Sunday combinations. There are multiple characters who excel with this combination of DHPT and Sunday, really unlocking a greater potential for them. The biggest benefactors of this combo are Saber, Anexa, and Jing Yuan. Sunday is a high-level teammate for all of them, resulting in a much greater benefit just by inserting DHPT into these lineups. All in all, he is an incredible character that should be built and used if you have him on your account. Lastly, we have RMC. Let's take a look at where you can use RMC. And that's it, guys! Thanks for watching! Alright. Genuinely, I already went over RMC a bit. Find places where they can regen massive amounts of energy, or can spam skill points. You find that, you are going to have an incredible time with this character. And that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. As of late, I've really been wanting to touch on old topics again since so much about the game has changed. Many of these topics were really fun or helped put me more on the map, so revisiting them feels awesome. It's also insane we still get enough good free characters to get another video like this out. HSR is a lot of things for sure, but they very rarely miss when giving out characters. With that said, tell me in the comments below what you like most about these characters. I'm really curious to hear how everyone else feels. I've got plenty more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye bye!